Well, we all know that Donald Trump won the election and he even took the popular vote. Trump's strategy, it was different. He went towards alternative media like podcasts and Twitch. So here to break it all down for us is Gates Garcia. He's the president and CEO of Pine Hill Capital Management. So Gates, we all see the Trump dance taking over now. Everything about this election cycle was different. So what did he do this time that was successful, that was different than everything else?
He spoke to me. And by me, I don't mean that fancy title that you just read that's not as fancy as it sounds. I mean me, the regular guy sitting on the couch wanting to know who he is as a human. In linear broadcast television, you're sort of spoken to. And with podcasts and alternative platforms, networks like the Blaze, you're able to sort of participate in the conversation. And I don't necessarily mean, you're in the studio with them, but it sure feels like it. It feels like they're talking to you on a personal level. It sort of is able to humanize the person. The blocks are much longer. It's sort of unrestricted. They're able to sort of have a more humanized conversation and let you know who they are, not as a politician, but as someone that maybe has your values, maybe lives out your values. And so I think those conversations just resonate. If you look at sort of every demographic that swung in Trump's direction, I think it was a direct result of him actually speaking to those people directly moving up to the election.
So this rise in alternative media has a lot of people asking themselves, are we going to see something different, right, in the coming years? And we've been talking about this before the show. But the fact of the matter is the left still dominates media and culture and institutions. And there's still the prism by which, they still control the prisms by which we see the world. So do you think that we're going to see a swing in the other direction this year?
Matt, when I studied under you at the Claremont Institute, you gave a wonderful talk on the statesmanship of George Washington, and you used a term that was like a thunderstruck to my chest. You said George Washington provided regime-level change. I think we just had an election that provided regime-level change. But I think there is another regime change, and I think we're in the first inning of an absolute takeover of the media. And by that, I mean the right, the conservative movement, is taking over that institution. We're probably in the first inning, but it's been happening for a while. And I think that when over half the country elects Donald Trump, it means that they either don't watch mainstream media or they don't believe it. So I think you're going to see the continuation of the rise of alternative platforms like your program here, podcasts, all the things we were just talking about. I think you're going to see them only get stronger. We can sort, when Elon Musk bought Twitter, now X, he said, in the famous "I am the captain now," he said, "You are the media now." We've been given control, we the people, and we can curate what we want to consume. And so it's now sort of owned in a way by the people because we're picking and choosing what to consume. I think we're in the first inning of a massive, you can take an institution down or you can build a linear one. The great part is we're building the linear one. They took themselves down. The mainstream media died on election night and it was self-destruction.
You say we are the media. That was such a powerful message that Elon put out after the election. A lot of people hung on to that. And you say, we're in the first inning. Okay, so how do we make sure that we get all the way through this game? Because it's going to be a long, long time. And they know, at least for the last several decades, they've had those power structures. They've had everything put in place. So how do we make sure that this first inning has a lasting impact?
Yeah, so the interesting thing about the media is the mouthpiece. So the media controls the narrative. They own a lot of institutions in society, but not every institution is a mouthpiece. They can sort of shape minds and hearts in other ways, but we now have the microphone. We can communicate to the people. And so how do we do that? Well, we don't dance in the end zone, because we've been known to do that in the past. And we dance in the end zone and the aircraft carrier gets turned around right before our eyes and we wake up and we're, 4 years put in reverse.
The NFL is the no fun league. You can't have any fun.
Right.
They put those rules in place.
That's exactly right. Jill, here's what I think we need to do. I talked about those demographic changes. If you look at all the demographic movements towards a Trump campaign, Trump nomination, we've got to introduce ourselves to these people. Trump sort of did it in a way. He got their vote, but now they're with us. They're with us. We're with them. And we've got to communicate a message that we're all on the same team here. This is our message, and we're going to use alternative platforms to do it.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit more about how to do that. I mean, the point that you made about the podcasts or the alternative media, which I think is true, is that it's not just talking about political issues, but it's talking about how people live their lives. Very powerful. For instance, when Trump's famously, right, granddaughter comes out and you see that he's a grandfather, this humanizes him. And I know that's something you're interested in doing. Talk a little bit more about the kind of content that you see as having the most impact in the coming years.
Yeah, so news is important. We have to know the news of the day, but the news is the world we live in. Culture is how we live in that world. And And we have to have a focus on culture. And culture is how you live your life, who you support, what brand you wear. And I think if you look at society over the last, let's just say, year, there's clearly a massive demand for people on our side saying, who can I support? Whose song can I stream? Whose jersey can I wear? Where I know that if I put money in their pocket, it's going towards values that I align with. So I'll give you a couple examples. Harrison Butker, kicker for the Kansas City Chiefs. He, who's actually featured in an ad in your new magazine coming out, Frontier, which is lovely. He comes out and gives a commencement address at a Catholic university. It's not a conservative speech, but it shares some conservative values. He's celebrated. His jersey sales go to #1 in the NFL. I don't think a kicker's ever been in the top 100. Same thing with Jason Aldean and his song, Try That in a Small Town. It gets deemed the conservative anthem. It's the #1 song of his career. Nick Bosa wears a MAGA hat on Sunday Night Football and gets celebrated. His jersey sales go to #1. But here's my question, and here's what concerns me. What shows were they put on the next day? The only interview Nick Bosa did was by a liberal reporter at his locker room, basically in his underwear, in front of his locker. He needs to be on a show talking about why it's cool to be a conservative, how he's a conservative, why you should be a conservative, and why if you support me, you're supporting a conservative. We need to celebrate and humanize the people that are aligned with us.
Because there are so many more of us than even people realize. Even though Trump won the popular vote, there's still more people that didn't vote in the election that still believe the same thing. You said conservatives are cool, right? This is something.
Well, I am.
This is something that we've been talking about, though. But on the right, it's not ever been deemed as cool because the media has not been propping it up. Hollywood does not prop up people on the right. We know why. They don't want people to go over to that side, so they're always going to demonize it, show it in a bad light. So if conservatives are cool now, much like the first inning of the media, I don't know if people know how to act now that they're going to be the cool kids. So how can they remain cool and counterculture and still get these cultural wins?
Jill, can you not do the dance?
We did it. We did the dance on election night.
It's so funny. Everybody's doing that dance. And there were players in the NFL that got asked, why did you do the Trump dance at the end of your touchdown? And they said, most of them said, because I'm a supporter or whatever. But there were a few of them that were like, I didn't know there was a Trump dance. We need to be unafraid and unapologetic about it. I have a 5-year-old son who I put on my Instagram the other night doing the Trump dance because it's cool. It's fun. They said they were the party of joy. They were the party of doom. There's no more joyful place to be than the conservative, and however we want to define that term, but the MAGA movement, the Trumps, the Republican parties. There's no cooler place to be right now. And we've got to showcase that. We've got to have more people unafraid, famous people with large platforms saying, I'm a conservative. You think I'm cool. Let's get on the train together.
Yeah, we should drill into this because it's really important. I think I've been dying to say this on the show for a while. I just haven't.
You've held back?
I haven't got there yet. I have held back. When you say the word cool, right? I mean, the classic definition of that is not caring what other people think of you, right? So if you're very concerned about being cool, like should be something kids learn in junior high, you're not going to be cool, right? I mean, so the definition is you don't care what other people think of you. So if conservatives don't know how to act, it's because they're not winners. I mean, but the reason that they get the title is because there's some edginess to it, because you are taking a stand and you have to not care about what mainstream institutions think about you. That is why you have the edge. You don't care that other people don't like you and you're willing to say something, right, do something publicly. And that gives a certain kind of credibility to who you are. So, I mean, I think in that light, it seem like what you're saying is, we need to celebrate those people, right, increasingly. And it should be easier now. Because of the election, it's much easier, right? Everyone can glob on and say what they really think now, right? But we need to celebrate that because these people have taken a stand. I mean, this is crazy what he just said, right? Nick Bosa, it's like, yeah, where was he interviewed? Now, maybe he rejected interview requests from the right because he doesn't want to deal with whatever the NFL were going to throw at him.
Because he knew he was going to get the fine anyway that he eventually paid. But yeah, it's fine.
But you're saying the goal should be to celebrate these people who've taken a stand and kind of normalize that. Is that correct?
Absolutely. And let's use another C word, courage. It takes a little bit of courage. But I think Trump and the whole MAGA movement, J.D. Vance, I think they've given us that courage. Look, everything in life takes work. But, if it takes a little work to be cool, I'm happy to do that work. But we need good examples of what cool looks like. And then we need to promote that to people because they're out there. I mean, look at the election results. We won the popular vote. We had every swing state, the blue wave, all that sort of stuff. I mean, we're here. We're here, but we're sort of like still, we're not behind the wall anymore. We're kind of peeking around it, but we need to jump out in front of it and say, what is it, Molon Lobby, or to come and take them. Like we're here and we're not going back. We're not giving this back.
It makes a lot of sense. I mean, I think there's a real lack of understanding of this sort of stuff, and there's a lack of this kind of content that just goes into how they live their life. I guess the other aspect of this would be not just to celebrate the courage, but also to show an attractive way of life. I mean, and that's something we're really concerned with here. We talk about Align and lifestyle, and when we talk about Frontier, some of it is just, beyond cool this is an attractive, desirable way of life. And media is always the thing that shows you that, right? Mm-hmm. So you say, I want to be like that. Yeah. And just showing it, right? I mean, this is really important.
We need a platform to demonstrate what human flourishing and human happiness look like. And if you look at sort of the four-legged or three-legged stool, people define happiness a little bit differently, but it basically comes down to some sort of spiritual or religious involvement in your life, some sort of flourishing family, a meaningful career, rewarding relationships in your life. We need to demonstrate those. So yeah, we can sit up here and talk about being cool all day, mm-hmm. but we actually need to say, no, having a good job is cool. And here's someone that has a really good job, took a risk to get that job, and is doing that job in a values-aligned way. Having a good home life is cool. Being a dad's cool. And here's how you be a good dad. Being a mom's cool. Here's how you become a good mom. Being a working mom's cool. Here's an example of that working mom. We need to actually demonstrate not just who these people are, but how they're living this out in their lives. So people have a path. The best way to be successful in life is to identify someone that you admire and follow their path. We need to give people the paths to follow to be cool conservatives.